Hiya guys, Dixie here. I thought I'd read you a small passage from the book Tempestuous. Okay, that's Ellie. I think you'll agree she's rather beautiful. And this is chapter 6, by the way. One morning, Juliet had a doctor's appointment in the city and asked Ellie if she could stay on after her usual shift and look after the kennels for the rest of the day. Ellie agreed and Juliet shot off to the city. Paul was up on the garage roof when one hell of a commotion erupted from the kennel block. Every dog seemed to be barking at once. The noise rose and fell, then rose again, louder than before. This was most unusual. The dogs normally barked at feeding times or when new boarders were brought in, but this was different. They sounded agitated, as though something had disturbed the entire block. Paul put down his tools and listened, hoping the noise would stop. It didn't. For Christ's sakes, pissed off at being dragged away from the roof, he climbed down, strode across the yard to find out what the hell was going on. He checked the office first, then the preparation room. There was no sign of the girl. The barking continued beyond the double doors, deafening now that he was inside the building. Paul pushed the doors open and entered the main kennel corridor. There she was, standing at the far end. At the sound of the double doors swinging open, Ellie looked up. Her breath caught. It was him. She wore blue jeans tucked into her green Wellington boots, that bloody yellow puffer jacket, and the same ridiculous baseball cap pulled so far down that most of her face was hidden in the shadows. One of the newer dogs was barking directly at her, setting the rest of them off. This was the first time they'd been together. He had seen her only once before, on the night she came to the office with her mother. Carol had taken charge and done all the talking, while her daughter remained silent in the darkest corner of the room. Paul barely looked at her. Until now, they had never spoken. Paul could see what he believed to be the problem, and was bloody marvellous. He had stopped work and climbed down from the roof to sort out a baseball cap. He marched along the corridor towards her. The stranger from the pub, the man whose face had remained in her thoughts and entered her dreams, was now striding directly towards her. But seeing him approach, after weeks of dreaming about this moment, yearning for him to notice her, Ellie suddenly felt nervous, foolish, even naive, totally unprepared. Her heart raced as he drew closer. Paul stopped a few feet away. "Hey, I've come over to find out why all the dogs are creating, and I think I've seen the reason." Paul pointed at the cap. "They can't see your face properly with that thing pulled down over it. Dogs can be a bit funny like that," he said, trying not to sound too pissed off, but pissed off he was. "Would you mind taking it off?" Ellie said nothing. For one brief moment she hesitated. Then, without taking her eyes from him, she reached up and gripped the peak and slowly pulled the cap from her head. An avalanche of bright auburn hair exploded from beneath it. Thick, loose ringlets tumbled across her face and cascaded over her shoulders. Ellie gave her head a small shake, sweeping the hair away from her eyes. The barking began to falter. Then she looked directly at Paul and smiled. Every trace of anger had disappeared from his face. Paul stared at her, utterly speechless. For several seconds, his mind refused to accept what his eyes were seeing. The girl who had stood hidden in the office beneath a baseball cap and an oversized yellow jacket had vanished. Standing before him was the most breathtaking woman he had ever seen. His attention went first to her eyes, large, hazel, and sparkling with life. Thick auburn eyebrows matched the rich colour of her hair and framed her face perfectly. Her cheeks were round and slightly prominent, giving her a youthful, almost innocent appearance. Freckles dusted her small nose. One had escaped onto her cheek, another rested beside the corner of her pale red lips. Paul saw every detail. He could not stop looking. She was stunning, so naturally devastatingly beautiful that she did not seem real. Anyway, so that's a small passage from the book. That was chapter 6. Okay. As I say, that's Ellie, and I think the description in the book follows the cover. Yeah. Okay, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Take good care. And maybe I'll read you another passage another day. Thanks very much. Take care now. Bye.